Good day to you all. Sundial from Substance Over Style. Happy Sunday. Well, it's probably not going to be Sunday by the time this video goes out. It might be Monday, but it's Sunday for me. Yeah, we are having some crazy solar weather. Loads of solar activity at the moment. So if you're feeling really, really tired or irritable or anxious or depressed, know that that's what's going on. We've been one of the biggest solar storms that we've had in a really long time. For the full tea on that, do go follow my associate Ryan Riff Parks on Facebook. His content, he does lives talking about every time there's a coronal mass ejection or a solar flare or like intense solar winds. He'll do a live and kind of tell people and explain what's going on. And he's got a website also called thesmokingsun.com, which explains how to read the space weather. So he's kind of the expert on that, and he's been, every time I feel really like frazzled and what the hell's going on, I have a look at his Facebook, and he'll usually have done some kind of update to say, guys, yeah, there's a solar flare or whatever. So I'm not going to speak too much on that, but I do know that it's basically like our sun is emitting solar energy from the great central sun, which I think belongs to the Sirius star system, but it's basically like our spiritual sun, and it's basically emitting energy that goes all the way back to source through all the different suns throughout our galaxy. And I'm not an expert on kind of that stuff exactly, but I do know that the solar codes that are basically emitting these frequencies to the planet are upgrading our bodies. So we'll be dropping old density as we kind of level up from carbon-based beings into silica-based beings, and activate like not our junk DNA. It's commonly referred to as our junk DNA, but our 12-strand DNA. So that's the process that we're going through. So yeah, last couple of days I've just been completely wiped out, and there wasn't really any, I wasn't that busy this last week to be that wiped out. So I know that there was definitely something going on. So I do think that we are going through a period of quite rapid soft disclosures, but very a lot of them one after the other, the Pfizer just released their documents that they were hoping to keep secret for a while, and released a bunch of, I think something like over 5,000 adverse events, over 1,000 deaths, and they haven't said what percentage that is. So, it's kind of very worrying. So a lot of people are starting to ask some questions. The UK government just had a panel discussion where they admitted using fear tactics and psychological gaslighting, basically, to try and get the public to change their behavior. I shared that on my Facebook. I'll see if I can share it in my Telegram as well, but if you're not following my public posts on Facebook, then follow those. I'm Ishtar Moon on Facebook. I also have my public page, Sundial Roy, which you can follow as well. But actually, it's not in my public posts. So yeah, I'll see if I can share that in the Telegram. But it was basically on Facebook. They were just having the live chat where they were talking about, we were trying to get people to change their behavior, and they're just, openly admitting, that's. And the thing is, it's very chilling to watch. The comments on this were amazing, because, literally every single comment was just members of the public just absolutely incensed that the government and members of parliament and members of these government think tanks can talk about us in such a blasé way, like it's nothing. We were just using psychological gaslighting techniques to try and get people to change their behavior, because the way that they actually believe that they're within their rights to manipulate our behavior, because we're just cattle, right? I'm not saying that they all believe that. I'm sure that there are, people who are within these systems who genuinely do care about people, but their hands are tied within the system. So, this kind of this drip feed of disclosure that's happening now is awakening people to what the system is and what needs to change within it. And obviously we've got people stationed at all levels of the system, and I'll talk about that a bit more later. So it's not just I don't want to create this whole us and them narrative. It's basically a separation within our own selves that's feeding into a false timeline or an inverted reality that we need to pull back out and awaken awaken our God selves and realize that we run this shit and we can manifest this reality according to natural laws exactly how we want to see it, that, you know, in a way that benefits the collective. So, you know, it's, yeah, just, you know, mainstream media started talking about Hunter Biden's laptop. So there's a bunch of lots of little things that are happening that are all like basically doing this slow drip feed of disclosure. But I'm not saying that anybody needs to just rest on their laurels and be like, oh yeah, okay, well, it's happening, so it's happening, the awakening is happening, so we just wait. No, you don't wait. You still do the work that you're here to do, that you've been called to do, and whatever that is, whatever capacity that is, whether it's direct action, whether it's, you know, following the legal process, whether it's kind of talking to people around you, whether it's canvassing, you know, everybody's kind of been given slightly different mission template for this. So really get clear on what yours is when it comes to this. So I just want a little bit more light on my face. Just give me a second. Okay, so I wanted to talk about some polarity stuff today and some union stuff because it kind of came up on Instagram the other day where I posted a reel, and it was a little excerpt from my video that I did like 2 videos ago on female sexuality. It's kind of says, it's okay to need a man. It's that one. It's okay to need a man. And it got a lot of interaction because I mentioned about, you know, I started talking about masculine provision and, you know, how women are mothers, and that obviously means that, you know, our energy is taken for that. And, you know, modern feminism has told us that we should do everything and be mothers and fathers, and we can do everything that a man can do, and it's not really serving us. So hang on, let me just quickly play that. Okay, because women need men to survive and have historically required men to survive for protection and provision. Now, obviously, with women integrating their masculine on like a collective level, women don't really require men so much for provision as much anymore, but we kind of do, because women are still mothers, and having to do the role of motherhood and also the more fatherly role of provision is literally, it's causing women to just burn out and just end up completely frazzled and resentful and all of that stuff. So if you find that a woman is not sexually opening up to you, it might be because she's literally being a mother and a father, and she's completely burnt out and frazzled. So actually taking the time to step in and be, you know, take some of the load off her shoulders will actually help her move more into her feminine energy and start to kind of open up more sexually. Okay, because women... So that got like a lot of comments. Some of them were stupid, from like triggered dusties, basically. I don't know what the point that some of them, there were some idiots who commented on it. I blocked them, but they got really triggered saying that feminism is bullshit, which I agree with, not completely, but like I agree that there's a lot of issues to do with feminism, and I've always maintained that for a very long time. So I don't know why they were like, it was like they were attacking me, saying feminism is bullshit, and I'm just like, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, and it didn't really have a coherent point. But there was one particular person that left quite a few comments, Minnie Bexy, and you know, I know that a lot of women are having this experience, so I wanted to speak on it. So, you know, she kind of talked about, yeah, she was just like, she was like, now I'm a mother, I'm in mum groups across Facebook, and I'm constantly seeing posts by desperate women trying to work full time, look after the baby all evening and up in the night to attend to their nappies and night nursing them, food prepping in the morning. It's just not physically or emotionally possible, and they really suffer horribly. Men's incomes used to be enough, but now women are expected to still do most of the caregiving and bring in money too. I knew this wasn't possible, so I waited till I built up a bit of passive income, as I didn't want to rely fully on my man's income. I should be able to, but in this day and age, men seem to expect you to work too. Yeah, and they do, because it's because of the modern feminist movement, where we said, okay, we want to work as well, but we've got to take ownership of that, and we've got to acknowledge the part that women collectively played. It wasn't us individually as women, it was the ones that came before, and they made a mistake, okay, because they thought that men could do more of the caregiving than they're actually capable of or willing to do. Or it's not, I don't think it's so much about, you know, them not being capable or willing or whatever like that. They, you know, our bodies are different, you know, we have different hormones, and we are just, women are just naturally more attuned to the needs of children and generally to the needs of others. Okay, we're biologically hardwired to be mothers and to be nurturers, and men are much more biologically hardwired to be providers and protectors. And no amount of third wave feminism is going to change our biology, as much as they seem hell-bent on trying to convince us that our biology is different to what it is. We have certain hormones that lend us better towards that role. So it doesn't really work. And she left quite a few comments, but she left another comment basically saying that even when she was pregnant and she did have passive income and she was already paying 50% of the bills, her partner still wanted her to work to bring in more. And I'm sorry, but this has to be said, okay, not to her specifically. If you are in a relationship with a man and he is wanting you to have his children and he's still expecting you to work, and you don't want to, and he's not prepared to do half he's not going to do half the pregnancy, he's not going to do half the breastfeeding, but even if he is willing to do half the childcare once the children get to a certain point, then that's up to you what you decide to do as a couple after that period of time. But if a man is expecting you to still work when you're pregnant, you are being massively shortchanged, sis. Massively shortchanged. You are being scammed and robbed from. Okay, and it is up to you to set the standard. Now, how do we do this? Because obviously a lot of women, they get in these relationships with men and then they get to the point where they're then pregnant and then they realize that the man does not have a provider mindset. This is why I say to all the women that I've coached and he helped, that I've worked with individually, and then also the women who I meet in, my social personal life who've come to me for help and advice. This is why I say you have to establish this in the dating process. And a lot of people find this very taboo, but you do not date guys who want you to be 50-50 with them, because they do not have a provider mindset. This is a feminine guy who is not, he's not recognizing, he's feminine energy, but he's not fully integrated his inner feminine. He's not truly married his femininity in the way that he acknowledges the role of the mother, okay? It's like he thinks that y'all are both the same. And some of these guys are really stupid, because obviously I'm not making a blanket statement, but I remember I went on a date with this guy, and he was spouting all this woke stuff and talking about, how he has privilege as a white man compared to a woman of color. I'm a woman of color, okay? And the first date he paid for, and I, offered to pay, otherwise I wouldn't have ever gone on a second date with him. And then the second date he asked me to split it. And I was just like, how does this logic work in your mind that you're all feminist and you're all woke and lefty and all of that stuff? So you acknowledge your privilege over me, but yet you want me to stand toe-to-toe with you as an equal? You're not actually making things equal? Nah, fuck that. So obviously I didn't see him again, and I just didn't... He pursued me quite a lot after that date, and initially I just didn't say anything, and then after he was quite persistent, then I eventually did say, listen, I'm not about that life, and I'm not turned on by that, and that's not the kind of relationship that I want to have. So you don't wait into, and this is because sometimes I have these conversations with men, and a lot of men are totally down. Most men that I speak to about this, I will have to say, when I really break it down and go into all the polarity dynamics of it and everything, they actually very agree with me. They're like, yeah, totally, I completely understand where you're coming from, because they understand that they will benefit from it, because they will have a woman who is more feminine, who is more submissive, who respects them as a protector and provider, who trusts them, okay? Because you cannot have this dynamic with a man that you don't trust. And this is why the feminist movement kind of moved into women having their own money. And I'm not saying that women shouldn't women should have their own money, because I also have people that I coach and I help who are in the, one of my specialties is wounded feminine. So they can kind of flip between like this cool, empowered, I don't need a man kind of dynamic, into wounded feminine, which is where they want the man to take care of them completely. And that is also not a good place to be, because that makes you extremely vulnerable. And when your survival is dependent on a man, then you can't stand on your own 2 feet, then that makes you more vulnerable and more likely to kind of get into bad situations with men and not choose a man based on his character, his morals, his integrity, and just how big his wallet is. And so you don't want to get into that situation either, okay? You want to be able to be choosy with a man and not be choosy on the basis of his wallet, okay? Because you can stand on your own 2 feet, but he has to add to you. He has to benefit your life in some way. He doesn't have to completely cover you 100%, but, and this is where I, diverge from. So I'm just getting a little bit warm. I diverge slightly from a lot of women in the hypergamous kind of communities and the level up communities, in that I do believe that a man should be a provider, but I don't believe that he should be the sole provider and cover. Like, I believe women need to have their own money, and that's important for our independence and for our protection and for our masculine integration. We need to have masculine integration. I've talked about having masculine integration in many of my videos. So you need to have your own inner, king, inner warrior, inner provider online, ladies. So, why? Like, what benefit is it when a man has a provider mindset, okay? You as a woman, like, when you're going 50-50 with a guy, okay, there's a lot of resentment that can build up, because he's not really benefiting your life in any way. So he's taking from you because he's taking your time and he's taking your sexual energy, okay? And for anybody who wants to debate this and says, well, you're taking his time and you're taking his sexual energy, are not understanding that men and women are different, in that men have a bit more time to figure out what they're doing in terms of, like, basically women have a biological clock and men have a financial clock. Okay, so you don't want to be in a situation where you're dating a man who's not really ready. He's not really ready to have this serious adult relationship with you, but he'll deal with you because he's getting that feminine validation and, exclusive access to your body while he's building up his provision, basically, his ability to provide for a family, okay? And so you don't want to be helping him get to that level, and then once he's got to that level, then he's going to drop you and go for the kind of woman that he really wants, who is a woman who may expect him to take care of her and their children, okay? So I see too many women getting into this situation with men, where they invest their entire 20s, sometimes even some of their 30s as well, going 50-50 with the dude, and then it doesn't work out, and then he goes and marries someone else, and then she's left high and dry. Maybe her eggs have dried up and she's no longer fertile and she can't have children now, okay? This is a travesty and a crime that has been waged on women and our nurturing and our giving nature for too long, and it's time for us to kind of reclaim this back, sisters out there, okay? Because you gotta understand how these things work, okay? What happens when a man actually shows that he does have a provider mindset? He starts to show you that he is invested in the relationship, that he's invested not just financially but emotionally as well, because men's self-worth and their value is tied to their finances quite a lot more than with women, okay? It actually generates testosterone when they are out there working, earning money, and that kind of intersects a lot with their mental health. Like, when men's testosterone is low, they actually start getting depressed. So work actually helps to energize the male body in a way that it doesn't with the female body, okay? A lot of the work that we have done historically, that women, that tends to be more well paid, which are masculine energy type jobs, that tend to pay better than feminine energy type jobs, will actually deplete the feminine body, the female body. Now that is changing, and maybe we can revisit this conversation in 5 to 10 years when we've gone through that shift where feminine energy jobs like teaching and healing actually start to be more respected and start to be more like well paid. But right now, this is where we're at, okay? So, you know, okay, so what happens also between a man and a woman when you unify, when you come together, when you start a relationship, when you start to become intimate, okay? When you're having sex with a man, this is why women's sexual energy is not the same as men's sexual energy, okay? When you're intimate with a man, you as a woman, your body releases a massive amount of oxytocin that bonds you to that man, okay? It makes you feel like you're in love, falling in love with him, and this is when the sex is good, right? Not if the sex is shit. When the sex is good, and when you like him, you're not just like using him for your own sexual gratification, but you like him. If you have good sex with him, then the oxytocin will release and you'll start to bond with him, and you'll start to feel like he's your man, and you'll start to feel like you want him in your life as your man. It doesn't happen with men like that, okay? Or they don't release oxytocin during the sex act. Men release so I studied this. Men would release the most amount of oxytocin. They did this in hunter-gatherer societies. After the man would like go out, hunting and gathering, he would go and make the kill, for whatever animal he was hunting. And then they found that after he'd made the kill, when he was on his way back home, his oxytocin levels were really elevated. So at first they obviously found this really disturbing. They were just like, why is a man feeling like he's falling in love after he's just killed an animal? But what they found was what was going on within him was this feeling of being able to provide for his family. It was like, so all that when he's making that investment in you, when he's taking you out, when he's planning dates, when he's doing things to surprise you, or ways that he can help you and benefit your life in some way, provide some kind of value. And it's not just about money, it's about emotional investment, time investment, whatever it is that he values more, okay? Because for a rich man, him investing, taking you out for dinner might not be a big investment for him, but for a man who's of less means, that might be a massive investment for him. So it's about what he values, not so much as just the money, okay? So if a man doesn't have a lot of money, but he's giving you a lot of his time in order to make your life easier, that's also a good thing, and you should also look for that when you're choosing a mate. It's not only about his pocket. So, it's this feeling of like, that he's the man, that he's going to be able to take care of his family, that actually bonds him to you and makes him feel emotionally invested in the relationship. And this is why you can't be making things too easy for them. Obviously, I'm not saying don't play games, but just allow yourself to receive. I've done lots of videos on, a lot of the time women have got blockages in their whole left side of their body, which is the feminine aspect, because the feminine has been so wounded and so denigrated and despised by the misogynistic culture that we've grown up in for generations, that the whole idea of receiving from a man, we have all these stories about it. You're a gold digger, you're a prostitute, all of this stuff. And don't allow people to gaslight you in this way if you have this expectation, okay, this prostitute programming. Because when they say, well, hang on, I want water. When they say, oh, well, prostitution, it's the oldest profession in the world, it's actually not. That is absolute bullshit. It is not the oldest profession in the world. A modern day prostitution did not used to exist in ancient times, okay? In ancient times, they had the temple prostitutes, the sacred whores, also known as the priestesses. And what did the priestesses do? They did hieros rituals where they would turn men into kings, okay? They were basically married to the earth, and they would basically ordain a man as a pharaoh. Okay, this is what happened in the Egyptian mystery schools. Okay, there are also other traditions throughout the world. In India, they actually still have, some of this tradition still carries on, but it's heavily distorted, and there's child prostitution happening with these temple prostitutes, and it's become extremely, like I said, inverted and a shadow of what it was, and that's not how it was. And even this had distortions, okay? This was still distorted. This was not God's original creation code, okay? So the priestesses would basically unify with the man and help to heal them, help to balance their energies, their masculine and their feminine energy, to awaken them into their sovereignty, okay? But the original, again, it was a distortion on the original creation codex, which is the process of hieros gamos that happens in sacred union between a man and a woman. Okay, it is tantric white sex magic, and it happens between two beloveds in holy union. Okay, and the feminine is the essence of care, compassion, nurturing, you know, that love frequency. Okay, and the divine masculine is the protection and provision and support and defense of the feminine, and they are both together in sacred union. So it's actually the energies become so unified that they actually at the highest level become one, which is at the Godhead. Which is why God is neither male or female, but there are frequencies, you know, that emanate from God's source that, you know, feel slightly more masculine in nature and slightly more feminine in nature. So yes, that's what it all breaks down to. And this is why you'll see in religious communities, they have certain rules of operation around how men and women are supposed to be. And again, anything done too much can become a bad, you know, it can become a bad thing. So, you know, be careful with these things that you don't flip from one way to the other. So if you've been in a mindset of being like super empowered and I don't need a man and I can do everything that a man can do, and so you're not able to receive anything from a man, and so the men that do show up in your experience just want to take from you, and then it can be very common that a woman will go from that into total hypergamy, and you know it can be a very deep shadowy process. You know, you may have to excavate some really lost parts of yourself, and go do some deep shadow work around not just your ability to receive, but your inner gold digger, your inner prostitute, like all of that stuff, and reclaim those aspects of yourself that you had disowned, saying no, I'm not like that, I'm not a whore, you know, I don't need to receive from a man, I give my sexual energy freely to whoever wants it, and they don't have to do anything. Like, fuck that shit, that's an old program. You are worth so much more, sis. You are sacred, okay? And you should not be giving it out to all and sundry. You should not be giving it out to somebody who hasn't shown that he's invested in you and that he cares for you and that he wants to, you know, make your life better and be part of your life. So, you know, again, it's not about having an entitlement either, okay? So we never act entitled over somebody else's resources, okay? Just like they should never act entitled over our sexual energy, okay? Because that either one is super rapey and just not appropriate at all, okay? Obviously, a man wants, you know, and prefers to be intimate with you, just like you want and prefer when, you know, he shows you your worth and your value in his eyes by making it no big deal that of course he's going to pick up the bill if he wants to spend time with you. And look, it doesn't, like, sometimes it's fine to sometimes pick up the bill if you want to, okay? I do sometimes with my man. If I want, you know, sometimes if there's a situation where, you know, he doesn't have it for whatever reason, he can't afford to take you to the fancy place, but he still wants to see you, you know, you sometimes don't have to always have like the super fancy date and he has to take you to all these places. Like, because some of the stuff that I see in some of these level up communities is just super, it's very bratty and it's very entitled, and it's where, you know, a lot of these labels like gold digger come from, because you're not truly connecting to a man's heart in that way. You're only about what you can get from him, and that's not what it's about, okay? It's about both of you wanting to give 100%. Okay, because when you get into like 50-50 relationships, it's where you start dividing, you start like, you know, what's the word, like playing tit for tat, like, oh, I paid half this and so you pay half this, and so it stifles your natural gifts and your natural abilities and what you're naturally better at, and encourages both people to just turn themselves into like copies of each other. Like, oh, I need to earn as much as he earns so that I can pay 50%, and he needs to clean and look after the baby exactly 50% as much as I do it. And that's just bullshit, okay? Men and women are different, and we're beautiful in our differences, and there's a reason why we're different. So stop trying to compete with men, stop trying to stand toe to toe, embrace your natural femininity and your value as a woman, learn how to receive. Sorry, the neighbours are being so noisy out there. Learn how to receive, and, you know, it's totally okay, like, to to want a man who pays most of the time, and it's totally possible. And you don't even necessarily need to find a rich guy to do this, okay? You can find a normal guy. And what happens also is when you start to be more in your feminine energy and, you know, just put your energy into yourself and expect that he mirrors that on the outside, or you know, that will start to happen anyway. It's not even an expectation. When you start to put your energy and your resources into building yourself up, then men will start to come into your experience who mirror the way that you feel about yourself, and also your beliefs and your expectations about them. They will feel it. So yeah, just what was I going to say? Where was I going with this? Sorry, I got really distracted by the neighbours just fucking around outside. Yeah, so you will start to, when you go more into your feminine energy, you will start to activate him into his masculine energy. Okay, so what will start to happen is when you lean into your feminine energy and start to basically, feminine energy is about you being in your own body and feeling your feelings, and connecting with yourself rather than projecting your energy out there on what he's doing or trying to act and make things happen on the outside. Okay, when you go back into yourself and start to embody your own feminine energy, it will start activating him into his masculine. He'll start taking action. He'll start reaching out. He'll start pursuing you. And he will start to elevate his circumstances because he knows that that's what he has to do. When you're being all 50-50 with him, you're actually making things really easy for him in a way that, you know, he's not going to be as likely to step up. He's not going to be as likely to pursue you and do things for you because you just have this whole independent, I don't need anything from you, it's like you're blocking your own blessings. So learn to receive and learn to respect masculinity for what it does and what it's here to do for the world. And you know, it's such an incredible shift. Like, I can't even go into all the details about everything that it will do for your relationship, but it just creates such a beautiful dynamic where you'll actually start respecting him more. You'll stop being so competitive. Like, I mean, these are just some of the things that I've experienced on this journey myself. Like, I definitely used to be very competitive with men because I felt like I had to be. I felt like I had to prove myself on the same level as them. They don't feel the need to prove themselves on the same level as us. They don't need to prove what good mothers they are and what good nurturers they are and how good they are with kids. So why do we have to prove ourselves on the same level as them? It's bullshit, you know. It's a lie, and we fell for it. And no more. Like, let's go back to the truth of who we are. So, you know, just respect them for who they are. Let them do the heavy lifting, and you do your thing that they actually want you to do, and they want you to be happy. Like, a good man does not want to take from you because that emasculates him. It totally emasculates him. And if you're in a relationship where there is emasculation going on, I don't think that you paying 50% of the bills is making it better. It's probably making it worse. You know, men need to feel needed, so allow them to, you know, to feel needed and need them a little bit, and you know, be appreciative of the gifts that they have to bestow on you. So yeah, that's about it. Oh yeah, no, the one other thing that I did want to say is because somebody also commented on a video that I did a couple of weeks ago where they were just like, oh, most spiritual guys are broke. That's not true. That's a limiting belief that person has, and I know a lot of people have that. That's kind of the narrative. It's not true at all, okay? That person obviously has the same... Okay, I'll tell you what it is. A lot of people who are broke tend to have ancestral poverty vows that make them believe that being poor is more moral or more spiritual, okay? And that having money is somehow goes against God, or it's evil, or it's satanic, or, you know, it's unethical to be rich because of whatever belief systems that they inherited, often from their ancestors, but it can also be from, you know, societal programming, cultural conditioning, and things like that. So for me, it was an ancestral poverty vow. I actually had this because my ancestors on one side of my family were Brahmin, They were Brahmin on one side, and then they were the second highest caste, which is like Hindu royalty, on the other side. So Brahmin's like the priest caste, which is like the highest one. And they hated the caste system. The Indian caste system is quite fucked up. So they basically converted on one side to Islam and then on the other side to Christianity. They gave up all their wealth. And so when my dad would tell me this story, he was like really proud of this, like that it made him like a more moral, ethical person, that his ancestors had given up all of their wealth to be down with the peeps because they didn't believe in this hierarchical structure. And I realized that I was still carrying this as well, that I still had this, because every time I would make, I've been quite successful with my modeling career, and every time I would like start making decent amounts of money from modeling consistently, I was so uncomfortable with it. Like, I would never like invest it in, make smart investments with it. I would just do things like, donate it to charity, or just like, take time off and go traveling for several months and spend it all. So it took, it was about a couple of years ago that I noticed that I was carrying this ancestral poverty vow, and I just broke it. And it was so transformational for me to shift this, because if you believe that, that it's more spiritual to be broke, then you're always going to be broke, and you're not ever going to be able to affect any change that's actually going to change the system that we live in. Okay, firstly, it's not true, because I know plenty of people who are high earners, people who are in high positions of society, people who are rich, people who are A-list celebrities and have lots of money, who are very spiritual and who are also quite not happy with the way things are and with the system, and are doing things to change it. So, it's kind of just this broke person's mindset, and it's a limiting belief, and it keeps you stuck. And it's actually a lie of the enemy, that like rich people are all fucked up, all these elites are doing evil things. And I'm not saying that there aren't people in high positions of power who are doing evil things, but there are also people in low positions of power who are doing evil things. There are evil people doing evil things at every level of society, and sometimes we also participate in evil. So don't even make this an us and them type of thing, because we're also participating in a system that enslaves other people and other beings. So if you have this belief that money, is more not having money is more spiritual, you need to look at reframing that. Okay, I'm going to read you right now. I'm going to read you a quote from Jeremy Locke, The End of All Evil. And somebody asked me in the last video, I think was it Papaya Smasher, who asked me in the last video to give a book recommendation, and I recommended The Kabbalion, and Autobiography of a Yogi, which are great books. But I'm also going to recommend, and I forgot this when I was asked, but The End of All Evil by Jeremy Locke. It's very difficult to get hold of a hard copy, very expensive, but you can find it online for free. Okay, you can find a PDF online for free, and it is a very short book that you can probably read in about 2 days, and it is just incredible. It will clear through so many inversions and so many limiting beliefs that you've had about the nature of reality, and just drop them out of your field in like 2 days. It was amazing. Just so many things about how society is structured, about democracy, about money and wealth consciousness. I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling through my Instagram right now to try and find the quote that I did this quote about money. Okay, this is a belief that the dark controllers that want to enslave and siphon humanity have instilled into the collective consciousness. That it's somehow better, more moral, more spiritual to be poor. It's the same what they're doing now with the Great Reset, where they're like, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, and you'll be, we need to be more sustainable, so let's not own anything, let's just have a bunch of NFTs and just interact with each other through the metaverse, and just sit in these little fucking tiny pods with the Oculus on and eat bugs. And somebody actually, I was having lunch last week, or having dinner last week with Johan Tengra from Awaken India movement. Follow his channel on YouTube. I think it's Anarchy for Freedom India, but he's making incredible waves in India at the moment, when it just comes to just sovereignty, and working with some incredible lawyers, and they've filed a case against the World Health Organization and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and just doing amazing things. So give him a follow. But I was talking to him on Friday, and I was talking again about the whole Gen Z thing, and how, you know, I'm impressed with Gen Z because they're so you know, they're just so sustainable, and they're just so much more like aware of the issues, and they're really into thrifting, and y'all know I love thrifting. And he made a really interesting point. He goes, yeah, they're trying to push all of this whole agenda. It's the whole, you know, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, and they want us all just shopping in thrift shops, because thrift shops, and, you know, making that cool and making that acceptable, because they want us all just completely enslaved. They don't want us to be in our power. They don't want us to have nice things. And I was just like, okay, yeah, that's also a very, very good point. Like, why should we be confined to thrift stores? You know, and I don't shop exclusively in thrift stores anymore either. Like, I went through a phase where I would only buy from thrift stores, but then I realized that actually there was a lot of things in my wardrobe that weren't exactly how I wanted them to be, and I wasn't really enjoying wearing a lot of the stuff. And I just realized it actually wasn't that sustainable if I'm just buying loads of crap, like going, oh, this is nice, this could be good for this, and it doesn't fit exactly perfectly, and all of that stuff. So, you know, now I'm a bit more balanced with, you know, how I shop. Like, this top is from Zara. So, you know, and I don't have this a massive thing, a charge against fast fashion anymore either, because it's just like, buy what you can afford and make sure that you wear it, and you wear it, and you wear it, and you buy what you really like, and not something that you're going to throw in landfill, you know, after a few wears, you know, or end up, you know, just redonating back to the thrift store that gets, you know, sent to Africa, and just it creates this cycle of overconsumption. But obviously buy stuff that's high quality. Don't buy stuff that's shit and just jump on every new trend. Okay, so I found the quote. Okay, so this is going way, way, way back on my Instagram, all the way to 2017, I think. Yeah, August 2017. Okay, so this is the quote. Money is good. Culture has invented the lies of money's evil so that authority can more easily lay claim to it. Authority can take your ambition for improving your life by demonizing your labors. Culture teaches people that desiring greater comforts is selfish and greedy. It teaches that money is a mysterious evil. The more money is condemned, the easier it is to steal from you. When culture teaches that working for money is greed, it also teaches that labor without money is noble, i.e. being a slave. Being a slave is noble, right? Laboring by rule of law for the collective we is taught as the proper form of ambition, i.e. total service to self. They want you to be total service to others. They want you to be completely service to others, because they don't want you working for yourself and your own family. And they don't want you to raise your position in society so that you have more power than they do. Laboring by rule of law for the collective. And when I say they, I'm not talking about the elites. I'm just talking about this Watiko that is just taken over so many people's consciousness at all levels of society. Laboring by rule of law for the collective we is taught as the proper form of ambition. If you cannot choose to give or to keep, then you are not we, you are a slave, okay? And I'm against slavery. Y'all should be too. I want all of you to have your shit. I want all of you to have the nice things, and I want you to have a beautiful, abundant life, and to be comfortable, okay? I don't want anybody living in lack anymore, and we've got to change this whole paradigm that it somehow makes you better and more moral and more innocent if you're living in lack and you're poor and, you know, enslaved. Fuck that shit, okay? We all deserve to be comfortable. We all deserve to have nice things. Let's stop demonizing one another for it, and let's start celebrating one another and asking each other, how did you do that? Okay, because the more we reclaim the wealth that was stolen from us, essentially, or taken from us, the more power we have to actually shape reality. Because wealth is actually just, and obviously I understand there's problems with fiat currency, which I've talked about before. There's a lot of siphoning that happens with fiat currency, but we are moving to there's going to be a quantum financial reset, okay? Obviously they've got their great reset that they're planning. Then there's also the 17 backed quantum financial reset, which is going to happen, which is going to be gold and silver backed. But then there will also be the people's reset, and people will do things as they see fit, whether that's crypto or whether that's NFTs or whether it's gold and silver backed or asset based, you know, whatever it is, it's where you put your trust. Whatever the collective chooses to trust in as a system of exchange is what will be the system of exchange. And I do think eventually we will move towards a resource based economy when we see how abundant certain resources are, but a lot of resources have been kept artificially scarce so that, you know, humans fight over them, and we become more easily controlled. So stop believing in, you know, having a scarcity mindset, because this is part of also what makes women so unable to receive from men, because you actually don't believe that men are capable of providing for you a lot of the time. Like if you think that they're somehow stealing from him, or, you know, whatever, firstly, you're not acknowledging your own worth and your own value and as an asset to his life, and the ways in which you're going to benefit his life by being in it. But you're also emasculating him by seeing him as incapable of being able to provide for you. And most men are not incapable, okay? Most men are perfectly capable of achieving great things in the world. And if you as a woman are able to see that in a man, you're able to draw that forward in him. And that's actually your true gift, and your role as the divine feminine. It's to kind of be his oracle and to be able to see what he, you know, to see, hold the vision of him in your mind of what he's going to be able to achieve in this planet, and kind of bring him into his greatness, you know, be able to see the great things that he's going to be able to do. Because a lot of men struggle with that self-belief, and that's why they kind of like women, because we validate them and we make them feel like, you know, men, and we make them feel like what they're doing is worthwhile. Because it is hard being a man. They do have to work really hard and have to do a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of dirty, dangerous jobs. So it's us that make that worthwhile. It's us and the children that we provide them with that make all of that worthwhile. So don't underestimate that. Okay, I could talk about this a lot more and in lots of different nuanced ways, and I'm happy to. So, you know, if you want to leave your questions in the comments box below, then I'm happy to answer them. Yeah, obviously keep it respectful. I know some people get very triggered by this topic. But yeah, I will love you and leave you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.